Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Ted, and today I'm joined by...
Nerdarchy Dave.
And today we're discussing the tiers of play in Dungeons & Dragons, and are you using them correctly? Jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So we're jumping in. I believe you were having a conversation with Elfbait, one of the Nerdarchy, one of the members of the Nerdarchy community, and he was like kind of lamenting about how he doesn't feel like he uses the tiers of play right.
Well, he was saying that he doesn't measure the characters or the character's impact on the world based on the level. Like he just whatever story he's looking at, it could get confined to an area and that's just it. Whereas other GMs and stuff that I've talked to talk about the tiers of play and the actual influence that they should have based on that.
Okay, so speaking of tiers of play, what exactly are the tiers of play? How many tiers of play are there?
Oh,
Is this an official thing?
Well, Watts does mention it in some of the books, the different tiers of play, and
It's
not
a thing in Adventure League as well.
right. So one through 4 is going to be like your apprentice level. You're still trying to figure things out. There's 5 through 10 where you're kind of getting notice and you're able to really affect the greater world around you. You have 11 through 16 where you're actually making a serious impact. I mean, you're really bringing those powerful level spells into effect. And then once you get to 17 plus, this is where you've actually reached, typically reached beyond your world and actually able to affect things on a cosmic level.
Right, so that first tier play, you're looking at like on a local level. That second, you might be affecting the country or the kingdom or the city you're in. When you get to that third level, you're really looking at the world where the events are kind of unfolding and you can actually affect. And the final stage is like that's the cosmic and multiverse that you're really playing on.
Now, everyone has a different philosophy when it comes to GMing. Some feel, well, my world is so massive and my gods are so powerful. I don't want my players getting to the point where they have the ability to overthrow gods or, change the verse in that kind of caliber. And you might have a Dark Sun-esque world where the city-states are ruled by something that's as powerful as in that world they're called dragons, but they're like a challenge 30 ridiculous crazy spellcaster that aren't easily overthrown, and that's just a regional controller.
Right, and there's other campaign settings like Dragonlance where after you hit a certain level, you were actually removed from the realm. Like you were like that was built into the campaign setting. I don't even think it was 20th level. It was like somewhere in the 18 to 20 range, where it was just deemed that you didn't belong here anymore, and you kind of got scooped up.
Or you've got even stepping further down, Eberron. Like most of your powerful NPCs, they're like a challenge 8 to 12. So it's pretty easy if you get high level there to be able to influence greater areas.
Well, actually, it's not even that the challenge rating was 8 to 12. There was 8 to 12 level characters. It's not always a direct correlation, especially in 5e. So yeah, and that world was designed that they wanted the player characters to kind of be the big deal. So they made all of their NPCs at lower levels, whereas in Forgotten Realms, you have tons of NPCs that are running around that are like 20th level plus.
Right. So it comes down to what kind of game are you looking to run, and if you're trying to stick close to this format, how do you go about doing it?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty easy early on because that's all you can really handle is, the local. And then just from there, as your stories unfold, the challenges get tougher, the threats are bigger, and they're going after bigger stakes. The players could easily just kind of transition from, saving a small village or town to saving the city or the kingdom, or that could even be a campaign arc where the villains just keep getting bigger and bigger designs and the players keep having to thwart them at every turn until eventually you do get to the epic level. Oh no, they're trying to, the Illithids are trying to open portals into this world and we have to shut that down or keep it from happening. That part is actually a little bit easier. The harder part is to go from the other way and challenge the concept that you have to play in your tier. The idea that you can tell stories that are maybe beyond the tier. Like if you look at even Dragonlance and the Chronicles, that was a kind of a globe spanning problem that they began combating, right? And they kind of like went through the tiers doing it because that's what they could handle. But at the end of the day, really, they from the very almost from the very beginning, they were on this trajectory where they were going to have to shut down Tahikis herself.
I'm not, super familiar with all of the Dragonlance stuff. I only read that initial trilogy. But when you look at all of the all of the things that can be done, it really boils down to, all right, you can only handle, X amount of monsters of X amount of power. Well, if that's being controlled by someone bigger and what they're doing is necessary to their plans, you can still affect that greater change.
Perfect example, Lord of the Rings. There's a couple characters that are higher level and more experienced, but a bunch of them are middle to low level. And the actual objective really isn't so much to beat monsters as it is to get this objective done, which was deliver the ring to Mount Doom, throw it in the fires, unmake the ring.
Right.
And that's not really level dependent per se.
That is 100% correct. If you're able to come up with something that mirrors or mimics that kind of storyline or that kind of story path, then the challenge itself is not level dependent, just getting away from everything. And if you actually read the books, they run away a lot. So
Yeah, it kind of like speaks to that. And well, another thing might just be like, oh, well, you have to escort this princess and keep her safe going from one place to another because if the enemy captures her, she's going to be sacrificed, and that could be a world-ending thing. Well, technically, you could do that at first level.
right.
It's just a matter of, oh, maybe there are some threats involved that the players aren't ready to deal with, and it could be foreshadowing for later after they like succeed and get the princess from one safe place to another, and now all of a sudden, or prince as the case may be, and now all of a sudden, like later on, like they've got another way to do the world-ending thing, or there's another way for them to get at this person of importance. So you're still continuing that same storyline, but now you found a way to like ratchet up the dangers to kind of coincide with where your players are now.
When you're running your sessions, your campaign, how are you approaching in regards to this tiered system? Are you throwing it out and not really caring, or do you try to stick close to it?
Well, here's the thing, right? If we can look at our own games for kind of like examples, with your game we have Narkitis, who's this blood lord, blood demon. He could be this deific being, or he could just be a demon lord, or he could just be a regular demon for all we know, right? And especially in the beginning. And at first, we're just dealing with cultists and kind of like mopping up and putting out fires as they spring up to eventually get to the point of, oh no, we want to go to hell and kick this guy's ass because he's been messing with our town for way too long. And that's talking about first, second level to now we're 16th level and preparing for our journey to hell. And in between, there's been all kinds of things like a imposter mayor we've had to deal with, encroachment from another kingdom who wants control over our town. Negotiations that happened with a doppelganger between the two towns. So there's like all these events that have happened that have been kind of like anything from localized to the kingdom, and now we're looking at this bigger thing where it's like we're talking about plane hopping.
Well, and that kind of by chance, because I didn't plan it in any way, shape, or form to mirror this system. It just kind of naturally unfolded because that's what I was looking to do. And initially, I didn't know where you guys wanted to go, but eventually, someone's like, you know what, we're gonna have to go deal with this guy directly. You can't summon him and have him be done. That just kicks him out of the plane for 100 years. He's still going to be able to send power in. He just won't be able to come himself. So out of game, you guys, actually both out of and in game, you guys had discussed well, do we summon him? Do we go to him directly? Do we, forget summon him and just go to him directly? So it kind of gave me this greater story arc that I knew that by the time you guys hit that, 19th, 20th level, that's going to be that final encounter that you're planning to actually go deal with this guy, get in his face, and see what winds up happening. But all the events leading up to where we're at now, it really has blossomed into this greater area of reach, areas of influence, and notoriety. There's many people across Osgania that know these characters' names because of the deeds that they've done, and there's probably loads of people that you guys have never met that know your names because of it.
And in my own game, there's kind of like similar storylines have kind of mirrored that, where I introduced an NPC, a villain at the second tier, and then that villain changes to become, now he went from being like a main villain to a minor villain, and changed the whole perspective of the party. Now they're dealing with like this enemy race instead of just as one guy. And then from there they had to go, oh well, these guys are going to open a portal, we need to stop that, and they did. And but then they're still, well, they're still out there and they still can make more if they need to, and they have their leader that's still out there too, which is probably going to be like the culmination of that campaign with you guys dealing with that threat. And and it's funny because whether you use a tier system or not, a lot of times it just go organically will go down that way if you've put out storylines and plots that your players have decided to bite on and they're interested in.
So how do you handle the tiered system in your game? You got any cool stories to share? Down in the comments below. Continue that conversation. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
Stay
stay nerdy.
nerdy.